Nadia Sorensen had made exactly 3 good decisions in her 22 years of life. And listening to the blue-skinned alien pilot across from her definitely wasn't going to be the 4th. For the last time, "Miss Sorensen, you need to wear the thermal suit," Tesvik said, his violet eyes narrowing with barely contained irritation. His tall, lean frame filled the cockpit of the courier vessel as he held up the silver environmental suit. "Caldera Prime isn't like Earth. The atmospheric particulates will what? Mess up my hair?" Nadia interrupted, tossing her chestnut waves over her shoulder. She remained seated in the passenger chair, her emerald eyes defiant. "I've been to 17 different worlds on diplomatic missions with my father. I think I know how to handle myself." Tesrik's skin, normally a soft azure, darkened to a deeper blue, a sign of frustration she'd learned to recognize over their 2-day journey. "You've been to 17 worlds surrounded by security teams and climate-controlled environments. Caldera Prime is a volcanic moon. The air is breathable, but filled with sulfur compounds and silicate dust. Without protection, I'll be fine for the 5 minutes it takes to walk from the landing pad to the embassy building." Nadia cut him off again, examining her nails with feigned disinterest. The truth was, the thermal suits made her feel claustrophobic, and she'd rather die than admit weakness to this infuriatingly cautious alien. Tesrik muttered something in his native language that probably wasn't complimentary. His people, the Azurians, were known for their precision and adherence to protocol, everything Nadia had spent her life rebelling against. "Your father hired me specifically because I know these routes and their dangers. Perhaps you should consider that I might have valid reasons for my concerns." "My father hired you because you were the cheapest option available on short notice," Nadia shot back, instantly regretting the words when she saw his expression harden. Something flickered in those violet eyes, hurt, maybe, or anger before his professional mask slid back into place. "Indeed. Then I suppose my opinion matters, even less than I thought." He turned back to the navigation console, his movements stiff. "We're approaching Caldera Prime, landing in 40 minutes. The silence that followed felt heavy, oppressive. Nadia shifted uncomfortably in her seat, watching Tesrik's skilled hands move across the controls. His fingers were long and elegant, each tipped with a small crystalline nail that the Azurians used for precise technical work. She'd noticed his hands before noticed a lot of things about him, actually, which only annoyed her more. He was nothing like the soft, pampered politicians and diplomats she'd grown up around. Tesrik was capable, confident, and utterly unimpressed by her family name or status. It was infuriating. It was also, if she was being honest with herself, incredibly attractive. "Look," she started, softening her tone. "I appreciate your concern, really. But I've survived this long without." The ship suddenly lurched violently to the left, alarms shrieking to life. Nadia's apology died on her lips as she was thrown against her harness. "What's happening?" she demanded, gripping the armrests. Tesrik's hands flew across the console, his earlier irritation replaced by focused intensity. "Thruster malfunction. The left engine just went critical." His voice remained calm, but Nadia could see the tension in his shoulders. "We're losing altitude too fast." Through the viewport, Caldera Prime loomed larger, a barren landscape of black volcanic rock and glowing orange fissures. It looked like something from a nightmare. "Can you fix it?" Nadia asked, hating how small her voice sounded. "Not while we're falling." Tesrik's fingers danced across the controls, his crystalline nails clicking rapidly. "Brace yourself. We're going to make an emergency landing, and it's not going to be gentle." Nadia's heart hammered in her chest as she tightened her harness. The ship shuddered and groaned, metal screaming as Tesrik fought for control. The ground rushed up to meet them, a blur of black and orange. "Hold on," Tesrik shouted. The impact slammed through Nadia's entire body. Her teeth clacked together, Her vision blurred, and for a terrifying moment, she thought they were going to flip. The ship skidded across volcanic rock, sparks flying past the viewport, before finally grinding to a halt at a 45-degree angle. For several seconds, neither of them moved. Nadia's ears rang, and her whole body felt like one giant bruise. Then Tesric was unbuckling his harness, his hands running over the emergency systems panel. "Are you injured?" he asked, without looking at her. I don't think so," Nadia managed, her hands shaking as she released her own harness. "You? Minor contusions." "Nothing serious." He pulled up a diagnostic display, his expression growing grimmer. "Hull integrity at 73%. Life support stable, but the engines are completely destroyed. Communication array is damaged, but repairable." Nadia's stomach sank. "So we're stranded. Temporarily." Tesric stood, moving to a storage compartment. "There's a mining outpost approximately 15 kilometers northeast. I can repair the emergency beacon, but it might take hours for anyone to receive the signal and respond. Our best option is to hike to the outpost." He pulled out 2 thermal suits and 2 respirator masks, turning to face her. In the emergency lighting, his blue skin seemed to glow faintly. "Miss Sorensen, I need you to put these on. Both of them. The atmosphere outside is toxic, and the native wildlife is highly aggressive. This isn't a suggestion anymore." Nadia looked at the equipment, then at his serious expression. Part of her wanted to argue out of sheer stubbornness, but the crash had shaken her more than she wanted to admit. "Fine," she said, reaching for the thermal suit. Tesric's shoulders relaxed slightly. "Thank you." He began pulling on his own suit, which had been modified for his species' unique physiology. "We'll need to move quickly. The surface temperature drops rapidly after dark, and we're only 3 hours from sunset." Nadia struggled with the thermal suit, the material feeling restrictive and uncomfortable. But she kept her complaints to herself this time. The suit was bulky and unflattering, making her look like a silver marshmallow, but she zipped it up to her chin without comment. "Here," Tesric said, stepping closer with the respirator mask. "This part is crucial. The volcanic gases can cause permanent lung damage within minutes of exposure." He reached up to help her position the mask, his fingers gentle against her face. Nadia found herself frozen, suddenly very aware of his proximity. This close, she could see the subtle patterns in his skin, like swirls of slightly darker blue that reminded her of water currents. His scent was unfamiliar, but not unpleasant, something mineral and clean. "There," he said softly, adjusting the straps. "How does that feel? Any difficulty breathing?" "It's fine," Nadia replied, her voice slightly muffled by the mask. Tesric stepped back, his professional demeanor firmly in place as he gathered supplies into an emergency pack. "We'll travel light, but take enough for overnight, in case we don't make the outpost by dark. Water, energy rations, medical supplies, and navigation equipment. What about weapons?" Nadia asked, eyeing the emergency locker, already packed. He patted a holster at his hip. "The fauna here includes razorhawks flying predators with serrated wings and tunnel stalkers, which are exactly as pleasant as they sound." Nadia swallowed hard. "You really know how to make a girl feel safe." A ghost of a smile crossed Tesric's face. "Stick close to me, follow my instructions without argument, and you'll be perfectly safe." He paused, his violet eyes meeting hers. "Can you do that, Miss Sorensen?" "Nadia," she said impulsively, "if we're about to trek through a volcanic wasteland together, you might as well call me Nadia." Something shifted in his expression, surprise, perhaps, or pleasure. "Nadia, then. And you can call me Tez. Most of my friends do." He shouldered the pack. "Ready? As I'll ever be?" The ship's hatch opened with a hiss, and heat rolled in like a physical wave. Despite the thermal suit's cooling system, Nadia felt sweat immediately prickling her skin. The landscape outside was brutal, jagged black rocks. Glowing orange cracks in the ground that hinted at magma below, and a hazy red sky that looked angry. "Stay within arm's reach," Tez instructed, stepping out first. "Watch where you step. Some of these rocks are still hot enough to melt through boot soles." Nadia followed carefully, her eyes scanning the alien landscape. It was beautiful in a terrifying way, like staring into the heart of creation itself. Steam vented from fissures, and in the distance, she could see a volcanic peak belching smoke. They'd been walking for maybe 10 minutes when Nadia spotted them strange plants growing in clusters between the rocks. They looked almost like earth ferns, with delicate fronds that shimmered with an oily iridescence. "Beautiful. Don't touch those," Tez warned, following her gaze. I know, Nadia said, stepping around them. But her boot caught on a hidden rock, and she stumbled sideways directly into a cluster of the plants. The effect was immediate and horrifying. The fronds released a cloud of spores that clung to her thermal suit like glitter. Within seconds, they began burning through the material. "Nadia!" Tez rushed to her side, pulling her away from the plants. "Don't move." But it was too late. The spores had already eaten through the suit in several places, making contact with her skin. Nadia gasped as burning pain erupted across her arm and side where the material had dissolved. "Get the suit off now," Tez commanded, already helping her with the fasteners. Nadia's hands shook as they worked together to peel away the damaged sections. The spores had left angry red welts on her skin that burned like acid. Tears sprang to her eyes. "I'm sorry," she gasped. "I'm so sorry. I should have watched where I was going." "Apologies later," Tez said tersely, pulling out the medical kit. "Right now, we need to neutralize the toxin before it gets into your bloodstream." He sprayed something cold onto her burns, and the relief was immediate though not complete. Nadia watched his face as he worked, seeing the concentration there, the concern. This was her fault or clumsiness, her stubborn refusal to take this place seriously. "How bad is it?" she asked quietly. Tez's expression was grim. "The good news is the thermal suit took most of the spore contact. The bad news is what did get through is a neurotoxin. You're going to feel sick fever, nausea, possibly hallucinations. We need to get you to the outpost medical facility as quickly as possible. Can we make it before dark?" He checked his navigation device, then looked at the sun sinking toward the horizon. "If we push hard, maybe." But Nadia ... He met her eyes. "You're going to start feeling the effects soon. When you do, you need to tell me immediately. Don't try to tough it out." Nadia nodded, already feeling a strange warmth spreading from the burns. "Tez, thank you for not saying I told you so." His expression softened. "We'll save the recriminations for when you're safe. Can you walk?" "Yes." Nadia took a tentative step, relieved when her legs held her. "Let's go." They set off across the volcanic wasteland, moving as quickly as the treacherous terrain allowed. But with each passing minute, Nadia felt the toxin spreading through her system, turning her blood to fire and her thoughts to fog. She'd refused to listen to Tezric's warnings, and now she was paying the price. She just hoped it wasn't a price that would cost her everything the world had taken on a strange, liquid quality. Nadia stumbled over rocks that seemed to shift beneath her feet, and the red sky above swirled like blood in water. She didn't remember falling, but suddenly Tez was there, his strong arms catching her before she hit the ground. "Stay with me," his voice came from somewhere far away, even though his face was right in front of hers. "Nadia, can you hear me?" "Hot," she mumbled, her tongue feeling thick in her mouth. "Everything's burning." Tez lowered her gently to the ground, propping her against a smooth boulder. His hands moved quickly, checking her pulse, examining the burns on her arm and side. Through her blurring vision, Nadia watched those elegant fingers work, fascinated by the way his crystalline nails caught the dying light. "The toxin is progressing faster than I anticipated," Tez muttered, more to himself than to her. He pulled out his medical scanner, and the device's beeping sounded like a distress signal. "Your temperature is climbing. Respiratory rate elevated." "Damn it! Am I dying?" Nadia asked, surprised by how calm she sounded. "No." Tez's voice was firm, brooking no argument. "You're not dying. But you need specialized treatment and antitoxin synthesizer that I don't have in this kit." He looked toward the horizon, where the sun was touching the jagged peaks. "The outpost is still 8 kilometers away." "Too far," Nadia whispered, her eyelids growing heavy. "Not if I carry you." Before she could protest, Tez was repacking the medical kit and adjusting his gear. "I need you to stay conscious, Nadia. Talk to me. Tell me about Earth. Tell me anything." But consciousness was slipping away from her like water through cupped hands. The last thing she saw before darkness claimed her was Tez's face. His violet eyes bright with determination, and something else, something that looked almost like fear. The fever dreams came in waves, each one more vivid than the last dot in the first dream. Nadia stood in her father's office on Earth. Ambassador Marcus Sorensen sat behind his massive desk, his steel-gray eyes cold with disappointment. "You had one simple task, Nadia, one assignment, and you couldn't even manage that without causing an interstellar incident." "I tried, Father," Dream Nadia pleaded, hating how young she sounded. "I really tried. Trying isn't good enough. Your brother wouldn't have crashed. Your brother would have followed protocol." Her father's face twisted with contempt. "Why couldn't you have been more like Michael? Responsible, reliable, worth something." "I am worth something," Nadia shouted, but her voice came out as a whisper. The office dissolved, reforming into the grand ballroom where her engagement had been announced 6 months ago. There stood Winston Carmichael, the senator's son she was supposed to marry. Handsome, wealthy, and absolutely insufferable. "Kundao, darling," Dream Winston said with his politician's smile. "This arrangement benefits both our families. Love is such a primitive concept anyway. We'll have a civilized partnership." "But I don't love you," Nadia protested. "Love?" Winston laughed, the sound echoing unnaturally. "You're a diplomat's daughter. You don't get to choose love. You get to choose duty." The ballroom melted away, replaced by the volcanic landscape of Caldera Prime. But this version was different, softer, bathed in golden light despite the harsh terrain. And there was Tez, standing before her without his thermal suit, his blue skin luminescent in the strange glow. "Why did you come back for me?" Dream Nadia asked. Dream Tez stepped closer, and her heart raced. "Because leaving you wasn't an option. It never was. But I was horrible to you. Dismissive and cruel and human," Tez interrupted gently. "You were human. Flawed and stubborn and absolutely maddening." His hand reached up to cup her face, and the touch sent shivers through her entire body. "And I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since the moment you walked onto my ship with that defiant look in your eyes." "I don't understand," Nadia whispered, leaning into his touch. "You're Azurian. I'm human. We're from different worlds. Are we really so different?" Dream Tez's thumb brushed across her cheek. "We both know what it's like to disappoint our families. To feel like we're never quite good enough. To want something more than the life that's been chosen for us." The dream shifted again. Now she was running through the volcanic landscape, Tez beside her. They were laughing, free, racing toward a horizon that seemed to promise something neither of them had dared to hope for. "Where are we going?" She called to him. "Anywhere we want," Tez replied, his hand finding hers. "Anywhere but back." But the dream began to darken, the golden light fading. "Tez?" Nadia called out, suddenly afraid. "Don't leave me. I'm here." His voice came from everywhere and nowhere. "I'm right here, Nadia. Come back to me." Nadia's eyes fluttered open to find herself staring at an unfamiliar ceiling. No, not a ceiling. A rock formation. She was in a cave, lying on something soft. A small thermal lamp provided gentle light, and she could hear the howling wind outside. "Welcome back," Tez's voice said softly. She turned her head, the movement making her dizzy to find him sitting beside her makeshift bed. His thermal suit was unzipped to the waist, revealing the lighter blue undershirt beneath. He looked exhausted, his skin several shades paler than normal. "What happened?" Nadia croaked, her throat dry as sand. Tez immediately offered her a water flask. "You collapsed about 2 hours into our journey. I carried you to this shelter. It's actually an old mining cave, abandoned but structurally sound. The storm hit shortly after we arrived." He helped her sit up slightly to drink. "You've been unconscious for nearly 6 hours." Nadia took small sips, her mind slowly clearing. "The outpost? Still 5 kilometers away, but I can't risk moving you in your condition. Not through the storm." Tez's expression was grave. "Your fever spiked to dangerous levels. I've been using cold compresses and what limited medicine I have to keep it manageable. But Nadia, you need that antitoxin synthesizer." "Then go," Nadia said, even though the thought of him leaving terrified her. "Get to the outpost, bring back help. I'm not leaving you alone." His tone was absolute. "The fever is making you delirious. If you wander out into the storm... He didn't finish the sentence, but he didn't need to. Nadia looked at him, really looked at him. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, and his hands trembled slightly with fatigue. "How long have you been awake?" "That's not important. Tez." He sighed. "About 32 hours, give or take." "You need to sleep," Nadia insisted, trying to push herself up. The cave spun around her, and Tez's hands were immediately there, steadying her. "I'll sleep when you're stable," he said firmly, easing her back down. "Right now, I need to monitor your condition." "Stubborn alien," Nadia muttered, but there was no heat in it. She looked at his face, illuminated by the thermal lamp's soft glow, and felt something crack open in her chest. "I'm sorry, Tez, for everything. For being dismissive, for not listening to you, for insulting you. You were right about everything, and I was too proud to admit it." Tez's expression softened. "You were scared. Pride is often just fear, wearing a different mask." "What am I afraid of?" Nadia asked, genuinely curious. "The same thing I am," Tez replied quietly. "Not being good enough. Not measuring up to the people who matter to us. Being seen as less than we hope to be." Nadia's breath caught. "How did you know?" "Because I watched you, Nadia. Over the past 2 days, I saw past the arrogance to the person underneath. Someone desperate to prove herself. Someone carrying the weight of expectations that no one should have to bear." He paused, his violet eyes meeting hers. "You reminded me of myself at your age, before I learned that the only person you really need to prove anything to is yourself. Is that why you became a pilot?" Nadia asked softly. "To prove something?" A sad smile crossed Tez's face. "I became a pilot to escape. My family had my entire life planned diplomatic service, like my parents and their parents before them. But I wanted to fly. I wanted to see the galaxy, not negotiate trade agreements about it." He looked away. "My father called it a waste of potential. We haven't spoken in 4 years. I'm sorry," Nadia whispered. "Don't be. I chose my path, and I don't regret it. Though I'll admit, when your father hired me, there was a certain irony in chaperoning a diplomat's daughter who clearly didn't want to be one." Nadia laughed, then winced as the movement aggravated her burns. No, I really don't. I want to be a xenobotanist. I want to study alien plant life, catalog new species, understand how life adapts to different worlds. She felt tears prickling her eyes. But my father said that's not a suitable career for a Sorensen. That I needed to think about the family legacy, about my duty. So here I am, being shipped off to marry a man I barely know to seal a political alliance. You don't have to marry him, Hez said quietly, don't I? Refusing would destroy my father's diplomatic standing. It would embarrass two powerful families. It would give you your life back, Tez interrupted. Nadia, I know I'm just the pilot. I know I have no right to say this. But watching you getting to know you over these past days, I can't stand the thought of you sacrificing your happiness for people who don't appreciate who you really are. Nadia's heart was racing again, but this time it had nothing to do with the fever. Tez. He stood abruptly, moving to check the cave entrance. The storm should pass by morning. If your condition stabilizes overnight, we can make the final push to the outpost at first light. That's not what I wanted to say, Nadia protested. I know. Tez's back was still to her, his shoulders tense. But right now, keeping you alive is more important than anything else we might want to talk about. The dismissal stung, but Nadia understood. She'd seen the way he looked at her when he thought she wasn't watching, had felt the lingering of his hands when he helped her. Whatever was building between them was dangerous precisely because it felt so right. She closed her eyes, intending to rest for just a moment. But the fever had other plans. The dreams returned, more intense than before. This time, she stood in the cave with Tez, but everything was heightened. His scent, the sound of his breathing, the way the lamplight played across his skin. Why won't you look at me? Dream Nadia asked. Dream Tez turned slowly, and his eyes held a hunger that made her breath stop. Because if I look at you, I won't be able to stop myself from touching you. And if I touch you, I won't be able to stop myself from wanting more. Then want more, Dream Nadia said, closing the distance between them. His hands came up to frame her face, his touch electric. You're promised to another. I don't want him. I want, but the words died as Tez's lips met hers, and the universe narrowed to just this moment, just this connection. The kiss was desperate and tender all at once, tasting of possibility and forbidden things. Nadia's hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer. Wanting to memorize every sensation before, she woke with a gasp, her body burning with more than just fever. Tez was beside her immediately, his hand cool against her forehead. It's all right. Just another fever dream, he soothed. But Nadia grabbed his wrist, holding his hand against her face. Was it? She asked, her voice rough. Was it just a dream, Tez? Because it felt real, more real than anything in my actual life. In the dim light, she saw his expression, shift surprise, desire, conflict, all warring across his features. Nadia, you're sick. You don't know what you're saying. I know exactly what I'm saying. She pulled his hand down, but didn't let go. I've been engaged to Winston for 6 months. In all that time, he never once made my heart race, never made me feel like I could be myself. But we've only known each other for 3 days, and somehow you see me better than people I've known my entire life. This is the toxin talking. The toxin is making me honest, Nadia interrupted. It's stripping away all the polite lies I tell myself. And the truth is, Tez, I've been drawn to you since the moment I saw you. Your competence, your patience with my bratty behavior, the way you care about doing things right, even when no one's watching. She squeezed his hand. I've been horrible to you because I was terrified of what I was feeling. Tez sat very still, his violet eyes searching her face. "And what are you feeling?" "Like I'm finally awake for the first time in years," Nadia whispered. "Like maybe the person I'm supposed to be isn't the person everyone's been telling me to be. Like crashing on this terrible moon might be the best thing that ever happened to me because it brought me here, to this moment, with you." For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then Tez reached out with his free hand and gently brushed a strand of hair from her face. "When you're well," he said softly, "when the fever has passed and you're thinking clearly, if you still feel this way." He trailed off, his thumb brushing across her cheek. "Ask me again." "Why wait?" Nadia asked, her eyes already drifting closed despite her best efforts. "Because I need to know it's really you talking, not the toxin," Tez replied. "Because you deserve to make this choice with a clear head. And because, Nadia," his voice dropped to barely a whisper, "when you finally do choose me, I want there to be no doubts, no regrets, no wondering if it was real." The last thing Nadia felt before sleep claimed her again was Tez's hand, still cradling her face, his thumb tracing gentle circles on her skin. And for the first time since the crash, she wasn't afraid of what morning might bring. Outside the cave, the storm howled on.